Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh. Did it work? Testing. Okay, I think it's working. Maybe. All right, we're gonna get started. Let's see if it things catch back up. I'm switching to YouTube here. We'll see how it goes. Let me hold on a second here. So yeah, we'll see how it goes with YouTube, and you can use the YouTube chat here. I think it's working. You can chat in this Discord as well. I don't have all my links and stuff set up, but it's going to be a little bit scuffed, so we'll see. Good to see everyone back here. Hope you're excited. And yeah, so I had an idea just to play with particles or something with grains here, just as a test run. We'll see how it goes, but some things will probably be broken with the stream and stuff like that, but we'll just deal with that as it comes. Yeah, so hopefully people like this YouTube format. I think it might work better. I know I was late this time, but just being able to schedule appointments or like have it set up as a reminder or whatever seems pretty cool. So I'm gonna make a little abstract sculpture thing. And just put some tube primitives on this. I feel like this kind of thing here could almost be like an OTL, just like the abstract sculpture generator. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone's having a good start to their weekend. Start to their Friday, maybe if you're on the West Coast. So yeah, we'll get these going here. And I'm just gonna make the normals random. So this is our kind of abstract sculpture. But yeah, you could do some kind of OTL or something if you just do this with different inputs. Like that. If you VDB everything or whatever, you can always just get like some kind of interesting form or sculpture or something like that. It doesn't really need to be too detailed, but just to get some kind of interesting shape with different features or stuff like that. So I'm going to use this cylinders as a starting point, and we'll do the grain source just to fill these with particles. I'm going to do that jitter, and we should be all right to get started with this. So these have the p-scale attribute, and if you go to the geometry, this is a new feature to do these lit spheres. At least new feature since I was streaming last time. But yeah, that gives you this viewport visualization to visualize the p-scale. It's pretty cool. And we should be good to go with that. And then I'm just going to do a pop network just to initialize a particle simulation with these. I'm going to get rid of this. And here with the initial geometry, if you're just sourcing on the first frame or whatever, you can do this the same way. So this just grabs the input geometry of the DOP network, basically. And that's pretty cool. And we can add the grain solver. Sometimes I just turn that off if I'm testing stuff. It doesn't do collisions or whatever, but you'll get a faster simulation. So just to make sure that everything's working. Hopefully the audio is all right. Let me know if there's any horrendous issues or anything like that. But yeah, I'm just testing this for the first time, but we'll see how it goes. So we have these things here, some forces, and I'm gonna make another input up here. I'm just gonna get rid of the unnecessary stuff. So we'll just make one sphere like that. And we'll do the VDB from particles. And I'm going to use this to basically initialize some kind of mask or some kind of selection set. You can use the group node the same way. So if we set this to points and we do group by bounding volume, the iso surface is like where the 0 value is of that SDF or the VDB. So you can move that around and do like expand the selection set if you want. But I'm just going to set this up with the vex. So there isn't, this same group node doesn't exist inside of the POP network. So I'll just type this out in vex, and then if we need to do it inside, we can copy and paste the code. So we should be good with that. And we'll do color. And then just to test the volume sample. Like that. And it seems to be working. So this is just the standard voxel values, negative values as you go inside of the shape. If we could just go to no mapping. These values will get below 0 if we go inside. I wish that there was an easier way to visualize this with the tags or whatever. But you get the idea. It's negative values inside and positive values is the distance from the surface. So if we want maybe to remap this, we can use the fit function. So 0.025 and negative 0.05. Like that. So this, anything that's less than negative 0.05 will be fully bright. This is just our mask or our alpha channel. So that should be good. And I can grab this code here now. And let's go inside. We can do the pop wrangle. And we can do the second context there for that input. And it doesn't work. What did I do? I didn't connect it. All right. There we go. So this way, this will always update during the simulation. But if we want these values to stick or to not update, what I'm going to do is just make a rest position like that. And then we can, instead of using the current position, we can take the rest position. So this way, basically, the ones that start inside of that mask will always be colored like that. And I'm just going to adjust the swirl size so it's a little bit easier to see. And I'm just gonna rename this from color. We can just call this the mask. And I'm gonna put this at the very top. Bagacito, how's it going? So we have the mask at the top, and if we want to turn that back on, we can, but you see it's a little bit slower with all that. So I'm just gonna keep that off while we're debugging it. And I basically want to use this sphere to make like a custom force that's gonna blow or activate a force to push these away, and then maybe after they leave the area, or once they're no longer in the mask, then they'll get like sucked back in or pulled back into to forming the sculpture. So it's a sculpture, but it's going to be kind of always like falling apart and reassembling, or some kind of mysterious thing like that. So this is our kind of blowing force. And that should be good. And then I can use the attract to basically keep everything else that isn't belonging to that mask value to pull it back in. So let's do the rest position for the goal, like this. And for the force scale, we can just multiply times equal by our mask. I don't know what this button, let's just turn that off. And then I'm also going to apply the mask to this noise. So just the areas within that mask are going to get pushed around, and I'm going to make a visualization just because this was like a little bit, it's hard to see what's going on. So let's put that here. And then I'll just move this around with the noise. I usually turn off this fractal, turn down the roughness. I don't know what that is. What was it saying? Pop attract? Something, I did something wrong in the pop attract? Ah, I see what happened. Okay. Now it doesn't look like my animation. Okay. We are in business. And if we fully want to test this, I'm going to save this in a stream directory. We'll do pop grain I don't know what we want to call this. Puff force. And I didn't update my scripts for YouTube support yet. So it's still on Twitch, but I should be able to copy and paste the link here. We'll just see if it works. So you can test that if you have a Houdini session open. That should just be a link to the current scene file where I just clicked the shelf tool or whatever. And in the future, I'll try to update this. So just paste directly in the chat. So yeah, this is part 1 of the section. So now maybe we need some other things to happen. We want this stuff to get pulled back in when it isn't part of that. And it should be doing that with this, but I think I've made a mistake here. So let's put down a color node after the simulation and just visualize what our mask attribute is. So basically I'm using this value of 0 and 1 to drive, we'll just pin this up here, to drive both of these forces. Reassemble. And we don't want that. We want this one to fully push things away when it's white, and then we want the dark or the black areas to push things back. So we can just do 1 minus 0 for that. And that's also just the complement node. If you use VOPs. This is the same thing as 1 minus x. Basically, if you have a value between 0 and 1, it's flipping things around. It's doing the same thing as the ramp is. Just taking the 0 and 1 values and inverting them. So that's a useful way to think about everything. So now anything that's getting a value of 0 is going to get the full force to pull everything back. And everything that's outside of it is going to get pulled back. And I think I'm doing something that my mask doesn't fully look right. What I want to happen is once it's grabbed or once it gets the value, I want it to stick instead of keeping the same value, like overwriting the value every frame. So you have a few options to do that. What I'm going to do here is just say that the mask is going to get the maximum, or this is like whichever of these two values is bigger, it will use that. So now it's sticking and it will hold the value always. And then the other thing I want to do is just have this fade away over time. So I think we can do let's multiply this by something like 0.25. And then I think this exponent, maybe you want to use time inc. That would keep it consistent if you start to modify however many substeps you have. The time that it takes to fade should remain consistent if you do that. So these higher values will keep it lit up or bright for a longer time. If you want it to decay really fast, you can use lower numbers, but that time inc should keep it consistent. And it, basically, if you don't do that, and you have a lot of substeps, it will like cool off or fade away really quickly compared to before. I don't know why my chat keeps, I think I need to keep like refreshing that, but it doesn't always pick up everything. Are you still in Portugal? Yes, I am. I'm drinking the Superbock Sabor auténtico desde 1927. This is the national beer of Portugal. Back in action. So this is going to fade it away over time, and we can adjust this. We'll just call this the mask fade rate. And if we have this set up this way, you can see that there's a problem with it getting 0. So if we want to fix that, you can say it to use the maximum again, just to make sure that the actual value it uses never gets all the way down to 0. And then we probably want to also flip this parameter around using the complement as well. So when the value here is 0, it just never fades, and then the parameter makes more sense. I'm here, I'm back. I thawed out of the thing like Master Chief in Halo. They revived me. All right, so that's looking pretty good. We can adjust the speed a little bit. And I might want to switch this to a wind. Maybe we'll just try adding this drag, and we'll see how it goes with that. So again, I'm just leaving that pop grains deactivated while I debug my forces, just to make sure that everything's kind of working as expected. And let's increase this. So as you increase this reassemble force, you probably want to also increase the drag so that it doesn't like jiggle or vibrate as much. Basically, the more force you have pulling stuff back, you want something kind of like pushing against it or slowing it down so it doesn't keep just like jiggling around forever. And I'm going to add this mask to the drag as well. And I think we want to use the complement for this, the inverted value. So we have things that are darker are getting the full drag value, while things that are brighter are not getting any drag or resistance applied to them. Maybe as you play around with this, you need to kind of rebalance the forces in some way. But right now, I think it's okay. And I think maybe I'm just going to switch this back to using the current position instead of the rest position. I think like visually that is easier to understand what's going on. It's kind of like an eraser or like a little fan zooming around. So it didn't really make sense before that if I just Control Z back, things, let's switch this to red or something. Things that were like really far away would get picked back up in the mask. Like it doesn't make sense that those particles all the way over there are still getting added again to the mask. So it's kind of like visually disconnected from everything or whatever. So we'll switch that back to the current position, but we're still using the rest for our reassemble force over here to get the goal position. So that's pretty cool. I'm gonna reduce the fading. I'm gonna increase this pulse length here, reduce the swirl size, and maybe increase this amplitude. Let's try something like this. So that's pretty cool. I'm trying to think if maybe we want like these, they're always kind of getting this constant acceleration, or it's like it's not really as exciting of a motion as I want, but let's see what happens. Go back to the lit spheres and turn on the collisions, and I'm going to increase these substeps a little bit just to see what's going on. Favorite Houdini streamer, he's back. So these could be a little bit too chaotic maybe, but I don't know, I kind of like some of that motion. I'm going to make the radius of this sphere a little bit smaller. Let's make it up here so it will get picked up by the copied points. So when we're visualizing this, we have a few options. We can fully visualize this mask. Another thing we can do, just put down a wrangle. If we take the distance between the current position and the rest position, you also get a somewhat similar mask, but this is just the how far it is away from the starting position or something like that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just on the grain node. You can get a nice look with the clumping. I usually just do the overall weight to something kind of low, and then the stiffness a bit higher. I find that you kind of get more interesting clusters. Like they aren't all the same amount. You get just some that happen to cling together and some that don't, because it's not as strict of a weight. Like if you set this all the way up, then everything, all the chunks kind of tend to look the same. But if you do this to lower, it's like a kind of a fuzzier force or something that's a little bit less powerful. And maybe we can add some more particles. For whatever reason, this relax iterations is really slow. With this node, if you want to speed it up, you can reduce it, but it might find some intersections or something like that. But Usually I think you can get away with it less than like the total 200. Relaxation iterations, it's just like a for loop that they have in there that is super slow to run over like tons of points. So I think this is starting to look interesting. Some of this contrast of the edges there is like a little too much with the mask. We can adjust that with these values here. But it's possible because it's going to keep like maxing it with itself every frame. It looks like that works okay. So we have more interesting dynamics now with it. More gradual mixes between the full force and like a partial force. I think it's going to be more visually interesting to see that kind of stuff happening like that. We probably need to do something to fix that, some of this jiggle stuff that's happening. Maybe with our force that's pulling everything together. Let's add the fit function. We're going to use that distance again between the current position and the target or the rest position. And if that distance is really small, or like 10 times as small, 10 times further. So if it's really close, we'll add 10 to the attraction force. Otherwise, we won't add anything to it. And I think we want to do that before we do this multiplication. So we're still applying the mask to those. Would vellum grains be slower or less convenient in this kind of setup? It could be maybe a little bit slower. I know that there's more attributes that they add to everything. But I think overall these kind of setups are pretty interchangeable, especially if here I'm not using like specific grain PBD attributes. Some of the forces, if you're using the vellum stuff versus the grain stuff, are unique, but I think with this, like if you set up a similar thing with vellum, you could do it your own tests pretty quickly. We just do it up there. Was this where they put the... We have to actually do it with the configure grain. This one is for doing the grain constraints. But for me, I think for more abstract motion graphics type of stuff, I like to use the pop grains, and for physical based sand or dirt or stuff like that, the vellum constraints seems to give better clumping, but overall I usually find that this one's like a little bit too slow to do wacky stuff like that. But if you want to maintain like a side-by-side test, it's always a good idea just to see. Sometimes with different versions of Houdini, it changes. I don't know where the, okay, I think it's that one. But yeah, I don't know why even this step here seems to be a little slower. Maybe I crashed it. I don't I don't know. I'll have to look. I think it's this jitter. The vellum grains don't like to be jittered as much because it really tries to prevent them from having an issue. And maybe you can try a higher number or something like that. But yeah, if I'm caching something out or something later, I don't think it's exactly the same node. I don't know why, but the vellum way that they set it up is a little bit different. So here you can see that they actually have inside of it like Russian nesting dolls. You just keep putting the same nodes inside of each other. I don't know why, but they, for whatever reason, they do a little bit more stuff with the vellum grains one. But yeah, so getting back to this, I think that having the fall off be a little bit bigger, it's gonna just give us more interesting dynamic results. If we want to try as well, we can add more activators. So things visually maybe a little bit more chaotic. Maybe to the P scale, we could try adding noise to that as well. So that over time these like activation zones grow and shrink. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. So I'm going to try increasing this noise here and the pulse duration. So they don't always grab as many. They get further away from like the actual main form of that sculpture. Let's get rid of that. Thank you. Yeah, it's good to see everyone back here. Sorry, I didn't mean to worry anyone, but I was busy with work and some other things came up. Was moving, doing a bunch of different stuff, and it just got out of the habit of streaming. But thank you to everyone following me to YouTube. I appreciate the support. Thanks for just sticking with me. So I think these, I don't know, I'm trying to basically just get it to grab little sections, just one piece at a time. But maybe these things are too far away. Studio Not War, good to see you make the jump from Twitch to YouTube. So, I don't know, let's... think that some of these forces are just a little jacked up. Let's try not to spend too long here messing around with values, but I'll try to just do another little whack at everything. And then we can get back to the more fun stuff. All right, so we have that. I think this thing can be a little bit lower. And I don't know if I think I messed this stuff up a little bit. Hello from Bosnia. Good to see you. Hopefully this current time works all right for everyone. I don't know if I'll be able to keep doing it at this time, but it's hard to find a balance for everyone from the Pacific time zone to in Bosnia it's almost midnight maybe already or something. All right, so this looks like it's a little more interesting. I think before, I don't know, it was just like a little bit too crazy. All right, so I think this is coming out somewhat interesting. Let's take a break from mess around with values. We experimented with the Onyx nodes. I haven't played around with too much Pyro stuff. But yeah, I imagine the style transfer things could apply more easily to Pyro or smoke. I feel like that's because there isn't like reflections and translucency. It's easier to kind of add detail to smoke and fire. But in Flip, I feel like it's harder to train or to do style transfer type stuff with, depending on what environment you have or stuff like that. 22. That's just 2 hours later from where I am. That's not too bad. In Japan, it's already 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. or something like that. All right. So that's cool. I'm going to start to cache this out. So we'll just keep the attributes we need, which might just be this mask. We could keep the rest as well, and then the Pisco. That should be good. I'm gonna make some more points, and I think as well, I'm just gonna make these tubes a little thicker. I think visually, the form of the overall statue is gonna, or sculpture or whatever, is gonna look a little bit better like that. And that should be good. Let's make a cache. We can actually just use this one. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just like to do my own somewhat custom paths. I should just make a default or whatever. So I think that should be good. Average time of working per day? I think it depends. I mean, I'm usually doing I'm splitting my stuff between like my regular kind of freelance work and some of the Patreon stuff or just my own projects. But maybe 10, I don't know, average 10 hours a day or something like that. All right, I think that should be good. I'll just save this again. You can have this going in the background. And I'll give you a link to the file in a second if you want to keep up. Yes, the goal equals rest. I think that you can open that file if you want to get the hidden expressions. But yeah, that's what I put into the attract. You could also do it as well with these bindings or maybe it doesn't have the options. You could do a direct link to a null, but for me, I don't know. The rest attribute, it's nice to have in there, but you could as well reference it to another operator like that. All right. So I'm going to start adding some more attributes just to play around with kind of visualization stuff for like render purposes. Let's just put that over there. So I'm going to take the rest, and if we sample this volume from the rest position, then we'll just get this value like that. So maybe you want to use this as well for some kind of shading purposes. That can be interesting to see like what is inside of other things. You can also remap the color directly. So this is the SDF, so it's going to have weird values. But yeah, if you can maybe imagine some like emissive property or something like that driving this, it could be interesting. So we have that surface distance, we have the mask value, and then we also have this distance here, and then you can always like scale these or multiply them or drive other functions and stuff through them. So we just multiply that up a little bit more. You might want to do like some exponential fall off or something like that, but I think that could be okay. I'm back. All right, so do points. I think with the grains, we should get some interesting kind of like collisions or stuff where it's kind of flowing around itself. I don't know if we want play around with that force anymore or something like that, but I think we're okay right now with what it's giving us. We've gotten younger looking. I don't think so. I was just maybe shaved recently, or some of the older streams I was more disheveled. So I think I'm just going to make one change here. Did this thing finish already, or what? I forget what it has these processes as. I think maybe it's Python. All right. So I'm just going to switch this clumping to be a little bit stronger. Something like that. Maybe the blowing force. I'm going to make the swirl size bigger. And maybe reduce the pulse length a little bit. And I'll just reduce the amplitude a little bit as well. So we'll try this again. With distro, I think that this is like a Linux Mint one, but it's kind of old. 21. I think 22 or something is like the latest right now, but I don't think it's a big deal. Just any Linux you're with or whatever, it should be like a little bit faster than Windows in most people's benchmarks, but overall, I mean, it's mainly, for me, it's just with like licensing, it's cheaper. You don't have to pay anything for the software license, and I like using the shell, being able to automate scripts and stuff with that kind of thing. Danny, good to see you. So I think we're getting a little bit better negative space and structures and stuff. I couldn't help myself. I had to do one more round of tweaks. All right, so it should be good to do some kind of look dev or rendering. I might just jump in with Redshift. Sorry to the Karma Solaris fans. Yeah, I don't know. Windows is different with VRAM and RAM in general. I think memory in general. There was a guy, VFX Arabia, that did some benchmarks of direct comparisons between Linux and Windows, and doing different simulations and stuff that you can see his results give you a good side-by-side comparison of those tests. You want ads in the start menu? Yeah, I think with at least this Linux Mint stuff, it's nice that they don't move the like system settings around every release or whatever. So I'm going to just switch this window for the camera to maybe like a horizontal kind of thing. Just something interesting is happening in that area, so we'll just frame it up for right now. We'll try that. Linux looks more professional. It's certain parts of it is a little bit. It's nice that the notification thing isn't like always flashing, and it takes a little bit more time to set up and mess around with, but you can definitely get everything like set specifically to how you want it. All right, I'm just going to put in a light. I don't know how that light got so far away. It should be okay. Maybe the camera moved with it. What happened here? Somehow I lost the camera view. I'm going to try to keep more of the thing in the frame, just so it's like, makes a little bit more sense as what's going on. All right. See if this breaks the stream. Hopefully it's not too much for the GPU to mess around with. All right, so nothing. Need to turn on particles. Maybe we need to make a shader. You can just leave that like it is. Maybe I'll just put in a dome light just to make sure that the dome light works. Maybe I move the light around. Oof, look at that. Done. Final. All right, so let's try to get some kind of rim, some sort of rim light going. And that should be okay for it. And then we'll just get maybe like a key light or just another light. I may do the barn door stuff with this. Yeah, the top-down light was pretty interesting. I might try to move it back there. Sometimes I'll make these just different colors so you can see what's going on. I don't even know where my camera is. I'm kind of lost right here. Maybe I need this rotational tool. All right, I'm just gonna make another. Let's do that. We'll turn off the dome. Oh, I think I moved this away from the origin. Oh no. What a mistake. I think we're just gonna have to leave it. What a mess. All right. We will just keep going with it. Let's see, the camera's like up there. Okay. All right, so you just have that barn door thing kind of coming across. And I'll just go back to that first light. I'm gonna turn the original one off and just make a copy. And we'll try to put in a top-down lighting and just see how that looks. And maybe we'll try mixing them both in. Could be too much light. I don't know. It could be okay. I usually like to play around with the background color as well. You can reduce the diffuse and reflection, but if you're just interested in seeing it on like a white background, that's like a quick way to do it. I don't know, maybe this one over here isn't really that necessary. let's just try something like that for right now. So I'm going to go back in here and start playing around with the attributes. So if we want to play around with the particle color, maybe just using this like the inside surface distance. So I just want to keep everything white on the outside. And we could try this if we want. I think I forgot to assign the material. All right. Should be in business. I think that right now we just have too many colors. And then this light here is like a warm temperature or whatever, so let's try going the opposite direction with some of these. So that's pretty cool. I think we're going to have some interesting areas inside of these parts where it's like pulling it apart. I'm going to mess around with the specular roughness. I think the default for particles, like grains like that, is a little bit too sharp, too crisp of like a highlight. I think with redshift as well, if you want to play around with the backlighting, you can do it like that if you do thin-walled, and then the subsurface, multiple scattering color. You can have it using the same color. That way that this is like backlit particles. You can combine them to get somewhere in the middle of the two. I'm just trying to look at the actual color that we're getting right now. At the depth of field, it's all done. I think that I was looking at these values wrong. Oof, that could be kind of nice. It's like some kind of juice. I don't know, maybe it's a mistake making these lights so saturated. All right, I'm just gonna turn on the auto update thing on the wrap. Could add some emissions. I think emission is nice, but it can like mess up your composition if you're trying to do silhouettes. You can get the vector to scalars, and then if you do the this component, the green, or you might be able to use the blue as well. You can do the same thing as like the complement, the change range, just to flip those values around. Maybe you want to exaggerate it even more. Just like a portion of things. For whatever reason, I think you can't even adjust like the emission. Weight. You just have to directly do the color, I think. I think some of this stuff I should be putting it through ASUS or whatever, but whoops. Yeah, you can do a color ramp. Sometimes as well, you can just set that to something like kind of wild and let the ASUS like stuff kind of roll it off. Like the out of range values or whatever. Like where it burns it out or whatever. But I don't know, it could be too. It could be too crazy. I think I'm going to leave it off for right now. I think already it just like visually there's too much. I'm doing too much. I kind of like to turn on these melting rods. The just keep adding more like diffuse bounces or whatever to everything to try to get more of the indirect light. can leave that where it is. I'm going to make another camera. We'll try to get a better, maybe this area. Let me see what's going on. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of, I wish my noise was given a little bit more structure to these particles, but maybe it's okay. Oof. We're stuck in the darkness. Someone turned off the lights down there. This is pretty cool. Oof. So that's pretty nice up there. Someone's just taking a little chisel. I think my specular might be a little bit messed up. I think sometimes you want to go like the other way with the IOR and the roughness. Cherry Coke, cherry Pepsi. This is kind of nice. I feel like these background, sometimes it's hard to get them like blowing out the same way as your actual lighting is. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe my values for that inside area are a little bit. I think if you want to add more information, you can expand these voxels so that the distance extrapolates further. So right now it's just like filling these are like the leaf nodes or whatever, but this is like the area that it's actually filling with values. But you can just do this activate SDF to expand it. Sometimes after you expand it, you want to do this renormalize to fix like some of the values, to recalculate those so it would be like the correct distance. But this will let you fix that problem that I was running into where I was basically running out of values and it was turning everything pink. So you just need to fill more voxels with information. then I can get a better control over those things. Maybe it's too much. I think it was a little bit too much. Always assume the values are correct. I don't know. I think it's like there isn't really a 100% correct one, but it helps them become more accurate. Basically, when it's filling these out, you can see it's giving it like this diamond axis aligned pattern. So to like, when you're going with really big distances and stuff like that, you need to recalculate the values, sometimes more times. You can check it as well if you do a sine function. This should give you like concentric circles, like inside of a tree ring. Should give you something. I see what I did there. That's a tricky one. So this is what if it's not correct, they're like parallel lines. You can just add more of these renormalizations to try to like help it become more correct, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't need to be fully precise. Some of the higher order ones will give you artifacts as well. But it just doing it a couple of times will help give you more accurate values, basically. Destiny has been, that was one that used to get me all the time. I think that's looking a little bit better. Let's just try one more camera and see what we get. I think that this lighting condition is a little bit funky from a lot of angles. Maybe we can see what's going on down here. I'm like too far over near that light. maybe this one will have something over time happen to be a little bit interesting. Maybe not. Yeah, I think the second one is going to be the better of all of them. Let's just see if we can do a quick time remap. I'm just going to make a render flag here. Whoop. The winding number. I did extend this cache. It doesn't look like. All right, let's just try that little region. Like 395. I'm just going to do a quick time blend, time remap. 395. I think I went all the way up to 525, 550. Let's just try that. I was just turning this off because it gets like a little bit slow doing that renormalization. I'm just gonna do like one of these quick speed ramps. Yeah, it went to 555. I don't know if I need that full range. It might already be like a little bit too much. Just like visually too much going on over this little time ramp. I think that kind of messes up everything when that stuff gets like sprayed out too far. All right, let's just disable that. Make this default color. Maybe it was those color values that I was adding in. I feel like it was more interesting when we had the like semi-circle silhouette getting taken out of everything. But then that first part is really boring. Oof, don't know how that value got in there. Yeah, you can add motion blur. I don't know how much it will. Devoid, how's it going? I'm just gonna reduce that backlighting thing and just bring the main color like that back up. Maybe we like a fully luminous color. Maybe something even more like desaturated. It's like a roasted marshmallow. Let's just put that there. I'm gonna take a white. Make it white. I'm just gonna try to extract like a sliver. I don't know. I feel like I just have too much. Visually, there was too much going on. I'm gonna just fix this stuff a little bit. I think it was slowing everything down. You can see that it doesn't really matter too much to be accurate. The clumps, yeah, that stuff with the grain solver, I feel like that's one of the reasons for quick things I tend to use it over the vellum, because it's a little bit easier for me to just dial that in quickly. I'm just gonna do the lazy man's rotation, just with a transform sop. We'll just put it right there. And these time values are going to be a little bit weird because we're putting this like before the time blend stuff. So at frame 370, I'm going to make a keyframe. And then at 555, I'm going to make another one. And just try some values there. I think maybe those are going like the wrong way. Oof, that was way too much. All right, maybe something like that. Maybe we want to move these. To do like some kind of pre-roll. Just to get some more interesting motion or something like that. All right, we'll do. This stuff should be doing deformation motion blur. I'm gonna go super low resolution. It's gonna be pretty noisy. We want to bake in the color post effects. We'll just put this here. Uh-oh. I forgot I set that cache to the path. All right. I think we should be good. Oof, look at that. Almost looks like the Blender viewport. How did these shadows get so good? Did this thing change its... Why does that keep happening to me? I think it was like a fake shadow. It wasn't even... All right, let's exaggerate the depth of field a little bit more. We should be good with that. Let's see what happens. I forgot to do the motion blur, the multi-segment motion blur stuff. It's okay. It'll be okay. Just on that tab right there, you can click motion blur and you can do geometry deformation samples. It's pretty noisy. I need to pre-build some camera rigs or something. I don't know. Some of this stuff for the stream, I need to take some time and build out some tools to automate or just to pre-build some of the things that are slowing me down. How far is this into the stream here? Oof, this is already too long. All right, I'm gonna let this keep churning. I'll be back in a second. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should have done more of a letterbox composition. Just keep cropping in until it's so abstract. It's just like 4 pixels. It's a gradient color or something like that. I like this white area here. It feels pretty soft. Maybe it would have been better to leave everything framed up fully. I'm going to take a look through another viewport while this render is going. Yeah, so I don't know with camera 2. Oh no. The denoiser. So with camera 2, if I just took that out and maybe like brought that down a little bit. Maybe that could have been a little bit more interesting. Let me see. Oof, I can't do multiple renders at once. All right, I'm just gonna kill that. Ooh, it still doesn't like it. I think it got messed up because I opened up too many Houdinis. All right, I'm just gonna redo what I did there, and this will probably be the last thing I do. That was the wrong camera. I'll try to pull this out a little bit. Yeah, I feel like just something like that, maybe. I think I'm just running into the problem where it was just like too much stuff going on with my lights and colors. It was just too much too busy. I think I cursed the file when I nudged this locator off of the origin. I think it all went downhill after that. Yeah, the dome light right now, it's just contributing to just for the background. You can turn it on for reflection, maybe. And that will like soften up some of that stuff. But I like having the contrast, just to be able to kind of play around with shapes and have some areas, some parts of the image be like fully black. I feel like if you're going against a white background, you need some black or some dark values in there to. Otherwise, you just keep adding too much light, and it doesn't look doesn't grab your attention as much, I guess. Yeah, this competition this composition is a little bit more interesting. I think, I don't know. It's a hard line to balance, like a minimal composition and then going too wild with the colors and all of that stuff. All right, I'm just gonna maybe move a few more things around. Yeah, I think I just need more structure and like negative space or whatever in these noisy areas. But I think that's pretty much all the time I have right now. I'll turn on the motion blur. Let's just make sure that it works properly. Just make a snapshot. I'm going to turn it back off. You can see a little bit of change. I think because I'm closer to the end of the timeline, things just are not moving as fast. We'll just do one more. It's hard for me to tell. It might just be with my camera shutter. It's not moving fast enough to really look tremendously different. I'm just going to turn that off. I'm going to try to go in ultra. try to speed this up as much as I can. All right. All right, so we're going to start wrapping up. We're rendering at one frame every 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Maybe we'll be able to get to the full shot. Maybe I should have tried Redshift RT. Crash my Houdini shortcut. You have a laptop for working away? Yeah, I have on this computer, I have the team viewer, remote desktop stuff installed, and then I just have a MacBook Pro that I use for like regular, more design Photoshop tasks and stuff like that. As well as I have Houdini on there, and then I can remote control this computer if I'm out of town or traveling, or it's nice if you just go out to the cafe or whatever to take a break. You can look at your simulations or renders or whatever. There's a new layout. I don't know. The Houdini layout? Oh, this new composition? I'm rendering at the Instagram. Oh dear. The Instagram resolution for desktop. It's not really ideal for YouTube. Yeah, the team viewer stuff works smoothly. I think it's the easiest to set up as well. Like, you can try to set up VNC or some other applications like that yourself with Linux, and then you don't need to pay, but I think you need to mess around with your router a lot more and like open up ports and stuff like that. And as well, even after I tried that kind of stuff, it doesn't, the speed, like the compression and stuff like that, didn't work that well at all. Like TeamViewer, I can connect from United States all the way across to Europe or to Portugal, and still almost work on projects. Like, it's not 100% good, but it's definitely, with just doing Houdini stuff, it's completely usable. I think my overall rotation for everything was a little bit slow, but this is definitely a cool moment. The ice cream scoop is serving up the 4th of July popsicles. I don't know, maybe I should have gone with like even bigger grains or something like that. I think as far as I read, last time I checked with Parsec, you can use the receiver on Linux, but the broadcaster, like the server, maybe they changed recently, but the last time I checked, you couldn't serve, you could remotely connect to a machine with Linux and control it remotely, but you couldn't have it be like the host, if that makes sense. But I haven't looked at it in a couple years. I don't know where their sheet went that said everything. So I don't know if you can host on Linux, maybe? Maybe you can host on Linux now? I don't know. Joining a Parsec session from Windows. Hosting is currently only available on Windows and Mac OS X. So yeah, I think it's still the same. But yeah, from what I've heard of people who are able to work like that, it's possible. But for me, it just doesn't really make sense. Like I already have the team viewer stuff set up, so I don't really want to mess around with that too much. The laptop is like somewhat heavy. It's like one of the M1 MacBook Pros. I think like the newer Air, the MacBook Air, I think like those are just like $1,000, somewhat near like the base spec, and you could definitely get away with that for just doing TeamViewer. And like if you don't have Wi-Fi and you just want to play around in Houdini, you can do pretty complicated sims to a certain extent, but I would try to get like at least 16 gigabytes of RAM or maybe 32. But overall, I think you don't really need a crazy spec'd out laptop if you're just doing TeamViewer and just like simple Houdini setups with the laptop. It's almost nice to play around on like a lower spec laptop with Houdini because you're definitely more on track to optimize things, and you don't like realize that something's super slow until later on or whatever, like you might with a crazy powerful desktop. Nicholas, how's it going? Thanks for dropping by. Vegan Nuts, he returns. How's it going? I think I might have overcranked the clumping stuff when I set away the secondary simulation. I think as well, just with this noise, it's too diffuse. Like I should have tried to get more structures or tendrils ripping stuff away. But I think if you really took time to light everything and animate stuff, like you could get some nice shots out of this, especially these like circular areas. The other nice thing is that because we're just using SDFs for everything, you could actually punch out different shapes, like a triangle or cone, or different silhouettes. It's almost like some of the Sony PlayStation advertisements. You could have like the X, the O, square, triangle. I have a controller right here. You'd have these buttons would be the different negative space VDBs. That could be pretty cool. You'd see it. So this negative stuff right there would be like the negative space things. That could be pretty cool. Or you could even replace these cylinders with other forms as well. But yeah, that should be pretty much it. Let me know if anyone has any last minute questions or stuff like that. We're almost the full 10-second shot. Time to play games. You guys have the Halo lobby ready? I pretty much just play Halo, Counter-Strike. I haven't really played Counter-Strike too much. Tetris. I feel like all I've been playing recently is Tetris. It's the ultimate. You have like a simulation going or something like that. And it's a pretty fun one to play. My like input here is a little bit lagged out, so I don't think it's I don't have that much good performance. Similar setup with Flip. You can do a similar setup with Flip. I think like getting the particles to freeze, stop, and do that kind of stuff, you would be fighting around with the pressure solver a little bit, but it could be possible to do something like that. You can also play around with just the settings, like on the grains themselves, you can kind of make a flip type of force. I feel like with the new particles that they have in Cinema, they have some kind of like surface tension style force going on. I don't really know what they're doing, but I don't know. Some of the new particles that from the new solver that they have in Cinema, it feels more like a hybrid between like regular particles and Flip. But just the straight Houdini Flip, it's harder to do this motion graphics stuff where they like freeze, deaccelerate, and go as crazy, because like the pressure solver tries to be more like physically accurate, so it can blow up, or it can do you can get some weird stuff like that. Oof. I almost had it. All right. Yeah, thanks everyone for stopping by. When my first one's back, I appreciate everyone for sticking with me and not unsubscribing, trashing the links. But yeah, hopefully I'll do some more of these in the future. I'm still trying to iron out some of the kinks and that kind of stuff. But hopefully I'll have these links working. Right now I still have it going through Twitch. So it's not as fluid, but basically when I do these streams, I usually have a script that I click this button and then the link pops up in the chat right there. But my scripts are still old, but if you want this HIP file that I have open right now, you can just click on that link and get it. But yeah, I need to do some housekeeping, and maybe I still need to do some more work and figure out what's going on with YouTube, or maybe we'll try multi-streaming to Twitch and YouTube and see what happens. But thanks everyone for hanging out. Hope everyone has a good... I don't know if I'm done with the Twitch channel yet. I just decided to get back into streaming earlier this week, and I'd already been like playing around with YouTube stuff for a little bit, so it was just the easiest way for me to click the button to go live. But yeah, hopefully I'll have more of these. I don't know what the schedule is or anything like that yet, but stay posted or subscribed. Look at the Discord if you want. I don't have any of my commands working, but if you just go to the website johnkoons.com, all of the information is there. Just click the wiki stuff like that. You have... Did I have the Discord here? I think I've just put it maybe in here. Here it is. Resources wiki. This link here should give you an invite to the Discord. Yeah, I don't know, YouTube feels maybe a little bit more professional, like they've improved their streaming stuff quite a bit since I was originally starting everything with Twitch. But yeah, hope everyone has a good start of their weekend, end of their Friday. Portugal looks good on you. Thank you. All right, everyone. Have a good evening,